What was the worst job interview you've had? At an interview for a tech startup, they asked me, if you could be any animal, what would you be? I answered, otter, because fun, active, work well with their hands and cute as fuck. They really debated whether or not to hire me because of that answer because, and I quote, we only hire predators, never prey. And they weren't sure how to quantify an otter, because none of them had ever paid the least bit of attention to any sort of animal documentary or read biology or visited a zoo recently. God, that job sucked hard. Otters are pretty brutal. They will absolutely fuck shit up. This has to be the funniest one here, straight out of a Monty Python sketch. Just two guys whispering to each while you stand a few feet away. He did great on everything else but, otters. Where do otters fit on the scale? Well, it's an aquatic mammal. Pretty much everything in the ocean is out to kill you, right? Well, I suppose but it's too cuddly. Cute. Predators or fierce. Damn it, man. Why couldn't he have just said shark? Sharks are winners, and they don't look back because they have no necks. Necks are for sheep. Was invited for an IT helper position when I was 17. Would help fix computers for people at a shoddy PC fix shop. They asked me, what's the first thing you check if a customer calls and says their screen doesn't turn on? I said, well, you gotta check if they have it plugged into a socket. They laughed and said thank you, that will be it. Then led me to the door and gently pushed me out. But that's the right answer. Not if you wanna make money out of people's clumsiness, tiredness, distraction. Right answer is to tell the customer to bring their broken screen to the shop, keep it for, let's say, a week, and then tell them that, after hours of hard work, you found out there's no issue with it and that they should check if it was properly plugged, or, if you wanna be more offensive, ask if they made sure to turn it on the right way, and then, you hit them with a hefty bill for your efforts. Happened to me as a customer more times than I'll admit. Guess enough people got tired of that technician that he went broke years ago. Job was for a vibration analysis engineer. I knew how to do the job well. I knew the pay should be around 95K, and they stated 55K in the interview. When I tried to discuss my point, they said, don't worry, there's plenty of overtime. They also mentioned since they weren't involved with many balancings at the moment, I would assist the cleaning crew with a lot of the cleanings. I've never been so uninterested in a job in my life. 5 interview rounds, with the last interview round being with the CEO, all for an entry-level customer service job. During the last interview, the CEO said you weren't allowed to get sick, and you weren't allowed to leave at the end of the day until all of the work had been done. So even though the job was 8 to 4, the CEO said customer service reps often stayed until 6 p.m. or later. She also asked if I would be comfortable secretly reporting to her about what the customer service team is up to. I declined the job offer and the company harassed me with emails asking why and what they did wrong. Really glad I didn't take the job. 5 interviews for entry level. That's insane. Also, I bet the hours between 4 and 6 were unpaid. When I was a teenager, I had 3 interviews for Wendy's. It wasn't even for working there. It was for a freelance sound system installation. It's bizarre, they know they did something wrong but are so out of touch they can't see their own mistakes in front of them. They know about the many things that they are doing that are wrong. They just want to know which particular one was the tipping point that drove op away, so that they can soft pedal that detail for future candidates. Some companies will pull this kind of move as political leverage. If marketing director Robert has been having a problem working with hiring manager Tim, then Robert could do some shifty work to get Tim on notice. If, for example, Robert knowingly badgers cold lead candidates to fill out surveys in frustration and ultimately point out issues with Tim, then Robert is effectively blameless for whatever correction meeting follows the negative feedback they receive. I used to be fairly senior at one company, and did some work for executives elsewhere, and I don't doubt you're right about some, but others are legit unable to see what's in front of them. Before telework took off, we had telework SND. Everyone I talked to said they couldn't leave for better paying jobs because we had such generous telework, on the one team doing well, too. Told management, edit, that they've got this magic bullet in telework, let's hand it out like candy. They appreciated my input. I supervised the team, turned others around, was their go-to guy for putting ribbons on multi-million-dollar deals, so, not Johnny's staff contribution, and, figured a paper newsletter mailed to our homes would do the trick. These are horses that can only be led to water. I always find it funny when entry-level work like fast food restaurants act like their interviews are for a management position at a Fortune 500 corporate job. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Ah, graduated college and moved on. Why do you want to work here? I'm in high school and want some money. Like WTF, you pay minimum wage and expect the loyalty of a full-time salaried employee with benefits. Yeah, WH asked me where I would see myself in 5 years and I was like, not working here. Hey Donald. I was asked that question in a phone interview from KFC when I was 16. I said red panda because despite the name they're not pandas, they're related to ferrets. They have more to them than meets the eye, just like me. I don't even know where that bullshit came from, but I was proud. I quit the job in 3 months and went somewhere else because it was a shithole. The manager left £600 cash on one of the customers' tables and did coke in the office. I went to interview at Taco Bell while in my McDonald's uniform on my lunch break. They asked me one question: why do you want to leave McDonald's for Taco Bell? Me, they keep making me work with bleach despite having a doctor's note saying I cannot work with it even with gloves. My friend works here on Tuesday Weds and said you guys don't use bleach, I can only work Thursday Monday evening shift. Taco Bell manager, you're hired. Still weirdest interview I've ever had. I told them what I couldn't use, and when I can work while dressed for a job I was quitting. I later, months later, asked my boss why he hired me. He said, you were short, to the point, honest about your potential hours before being asked, and you had a drive-through headset and dent on by your ear. I could tell I could put you in the drive-through and you wouldn't be hopeless. Plus you looked like a stoner and I wasn't wrong. Oh man, as an interviewee, I've had a lot of fun asking the interviewers almost that question: if you were an animal, what would you be? Like not what you would want to be, what you would be most like. It's been hilarious every time and I've gotten great answers that all make my day. One answered, a polar bear, when I asked why, because I'm big and white. He was a friend as well as a boss, so we had a good work relationship and could make jokes. Another said Jack Russell Terrier. The last one I asked and he said, zebra. Too quickly, and then he said he needed to go and re-examine himself to figure out why that was his answer. The last one was risky because he wasn't really impressed since it wasn't a very appropriate question, and said as much, like don't ask this in a real interview, and I said of course I wouldn't, even though I thought that was the real interview and it ended up being the only interview, but it was more of an informal interview and hell, I got the job. Yeah, I have one that sticks out. I applied to a government branch as a network admin. The newspaper ad asked for a bachelor's degree. They called me into the interview. When I got there, the first thing the interviewer said was, we wanted someone with a master's degree. Why did you apply? Now, I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they had other interviews that day and got them mixed up. Shit happens. I just informed the interviewer that the ad I applied for requested a bachelor's degree, and confirmed the position I was interviewing for. No, we definitely wanted someone with a master's degree. So, again, why did you apply? If you wanted someone with a master's degree, why did you bother calling me in for an interview? You're very rude and unprofessional. Yeah, you fucked up at every junction thus far, but I'm the one who's rude and unprofessional. An agency sent me for an interview and said, the starting salary is £33,000. The interview went fairly well until the interviewer said, so what sort of salary are you looking for? So using the info I had from the agency I said, well, I think £33,000 is a fair starting point. The interviewer practically threw me out. He started to shout about wasting his time because I expected to be paid a huge salary, and who did I think I was? He was paying £20,000. Salary negotiation is so weird. I once had an interview for an internship. I told them $12 per hour was fine with me. They then said, well, we pay $10.50 as corporate policy dictates, and it's non-negotiable. And I'm like, why did you ask what I wanted to be paid then? Should have just said, we pay 10.50 per hours, is that alright? The first question they asked was a statistics exam type question. Took me completely off guard. I half-asked the answer, a complete answer would have taken half an hour. The next question was about a Punnett square analysis. I answered honestly, and said that the first thing I would do would be to look it up. Errors in Punnett squares are incredibly common, and I wouldn't trust anyone who said they could do it off the top of their head. I'd look it up even if I'd done one last week. They really didn't like that answer. They wanted to know where my husband worked and where we lived, and they concluded that our 6-month rental location was completely incompatible with the commute to their location. The whole thing was just super weird. It was like they sat down determined to find a reason they should not hire me. I was relieved to get out of there. As a nanny, you get some of the weirdest job interviews. It's not a professional HR rep. It's Lisa, who married her college boyfriend and works for her rich daddy. Most were just a little awkward with some inappropriate questions. Like, do you have a boyfriend? Or, do you plan on having kids soon? One definitely stands out. I go to an interview for a family of an 16-month-old. Mom introduces herself and tells me we'll be interviewing in the nursery. I follow her in and there's only one chair, the rocking chair. She tells me to sit on the ground in a not so nice way. It became very clear that it was symbolic for how she treats the help. She wanted to literally look down on me. I sit down and she gets her toddler out of the crib. Sits in the rocking chair and immediately starts breastfeeding. I've been around a lot of breastfeeding mamas, so it wasn't that weird. But she took her top off, so she was pretty open about it. First thing she says, I hope you're okay with this because you'll be seeing a lot it. No real hello, how's it going? Or a question. Just, get used to seeing my tits. Then she tells me we'll be conducting the interview when she's done nursing. So for the next 15 minutes I'm just staring at her breastfeeding. Already super weird. The interview finally starts and it goes well. She's clearly a rich spoiled girl. Asks a million questions, which is cool. Including a couple weird ones. When she's done, I go, can I ask some questions? Her response is, nope. Then she tells me she wants to see how I'll do with the kid. For the next 2 hours I follow her around and do what she tells me. I change diapers, give the kid a bath, fold baby clothes, put the kid down for a nap, even washed breast pump parts. And she's critiquing me on everything. She sends me on my way eventually. I actually thought I did really bad because